Hello, I'm Leona Dooley, and this is Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme in the kitchen. And today in the kitchen, we're going to be cleaning some greens and getting them ready, actually, for the freezer. And so, if you're interested in what I do in order to prepare the greens, please stay tuned. Now, today, actually yesterday, I received, I'll call it a package of greens. And I'm going to turn you down so you can see this monster-sized bag of greens. And what I need to do, I've got a sink full of nice warm soapy water that as I take the greens off the stem, I'm going to place them down into this nice warm water. Now, the water has 1 drop of Dawn dishwashing liquid, and that's where I'm going to clean them and rinse them about 3 or 4 times. That's depending on how dirty they are, because they are coming from a farm. They've been picked, and so you'll see in just a second what they look like. Now here is the bag of greens, and I'm going to open them with you. Let me get my scissors. I'm going to give it a sniff. And I'm going to keep this bag because I want to put all the stems and those kind of things in there. And I'm looking at these greens, and man, they really look nice, as you can see. But we do have a friend who knows someone with a farm. Now, what I like to do is that I actually fold my greens, and I kind of give them a fold down the vein of the greens, and I take that stem off because the stems are very tough. And so I like to take all of that off, and then I'm going to put them down into the hot soapy water. Now, so I'm going to do this with each of these stems of greens, and there are quite a few that's in here, so obviously I'm not going to make you have to sit through all of that. But if you turn them over to the back and just kind of fold in, the stem comes off very easily. It just kind of goes right down that center, and then you throw it into the water. Now I'm going to get you down deep enough where you can see the water. Let's see if I can bring you down that far and see if that works. Let me bring you up a little bit. You know, guys, I'm not a camera person, so I'm working a little, not exactly in this is not my bailiwick, so to speak. All right, so there's the water. You can see the greens are down in there, and I can give them a good swish. And then I'm going to, like I said, turn them over to the back, and fold in all the way down that stem, and then they will come off very easily. There you go. So I'll bring you back. Now I'm letting you see I'm running a little more water down in there because we're getting more and more greens, and it's just warm, soapy water, and you just want to give them a good wash like you would almost washing clothes, but more delicately. Now, I thought I'd talk to you a little bit while we were in this process a bit, just to talk about the greens. I like to, as you know, I like to freeze my greens because I think it helps with tenderizing of the greens, and so that's exactly what I'm going to be doing with these. Now, even if we cook them for Thanksgiving, they will have spent several weeks in the freezer prior to Thanksgiving itself. Now, this is a little inside. I'm just going to tear that apart. Those little leaves are in. I'll put that there. And I'm just going to continue. Now, for Christmas, I always have the charge of bringing the greens. And so I like to get those greens in advance. And in fact, I usually try to cook them in advance so that all the flavors have a chance to go through, and so that we can It's so funny because they look forward to Mimi's greens. So Mimi's getting those greens ready for Christmas. Those greens are going to be ready to go. So I just kind of give them a little care there. And then I'll break them up some more once we get down to the end. So most of the time it's interesting because these leaves have a tendency to turn, of course, in the opposite direction from what we want them to do. And you just have to work with it and work with them. Now, some people cut their greens off the stem and they take the time to cut each one. But I'm going to be honest with you, I learned this process because I worked every day. I didn't have time to cut and I wanted fresh greens, but I had to work out my own system for doing it so that my family would have the greens and I wouldn't be totally stressed out. So that's the reason why I developed this particular system. And I usually try to get at least a bushel of greens every fall. And most of the time, now this year we didn't do that, but most of the time I wait to get my greens and I want them on the plant when the first frost comes, because that just has a tendency to give those greens better flavor. They are even more tender. And that's another reason why I freeze them, because I think it really mimics the first frost. And it just does something nice to those greens. So that's why I freeze my greens, always. And even if I buy them at the store, I usually get enough so that I can do this and put them in the freezer. And so sometimes when I'm really in a big hurry, I will cook the greens immediately. But I really try to plan to have time in the freezer. You know, let's not cook so fast. Let's talk about cooking. You will want a really good vegetable broth. And now some people like the beef broth, or they put bacon in. And I'm not saying you're not going to put your bacon or your ham hocks or whatever it is that you like in your greens. That's your choice. Up to your family, what they like. Our family is, they eat whatever I put in there. But I like smoked turkey, to use the smoked turkey. And so I usually cook that smoked turkey in a nice broth, chickeny broth for me. And sometimes I have friends who cook theirs in more of a beefy broth. So, you know, it's just your choice. But greens are greens, and you just want them to have lots of flavor. So keep that in mind. All right, I'll bring you back. I wanted to take the time to show you some of these nice, large, beautiful collard greens. They are huge, and as you can see, I'm only about 2/3 way of this bag. So I'm still going and still taking the stems off, but I just wanted you to see that even down in the bag, that the leaves are absolutely beautiful. They are large leaves, and you can cut them. Some people use scissors, some people use knives. I know it just depended on when my mom was cooking them, she would decide on whether or not, how much time she had. If she didn't have a lot of time, she'd use a pair of scissors and slice her greens so that you didn't get such large pieces when you were getting your greens out of the bowl or out of the pot, because back in the day they actually served at the table. So they would dish up everything, put it into serving bowls, and you would eat, you know, actually put the food on your plate right there at the table rather than doing it buffet style. And part of that was because back at that time, the kitchens were not the size that they are now. So you didn't have the room for everybody to line up and to go to a buffet table, where a lot of kitchens now, I won't say most of them, but a lot of kitchens now are large enough to accommodate more of a buffet style. So, which is usually what I like to do, is to have everything on the buffet. And I usually put the greens into a crock pot so that they can stay hot, because there's no one wants cold greens. You want your greens to be nice and hot. So let's, I'm going to finish these up. I'm almost at the end. And like I said, I'll bring you back because I want you to see what I'm going to do to finish these and to get them into and ready for and into the freezer. Alrighty, guess what? This is the last leaf. So I'm going to kind of give it a good rinse down in there and flip it over. Take it off the stem. And voila! There we are. We're ready to go. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to slush this around and just keep tossing and tossing. And this also gives me a chance that if I missed a stem somewhere along the way, I can catch it and pull it out. And there's my greens. Now remember, this is just the first rinse. And this is the rinse that had a dot of Dawn dishwashing liquid, because I do want it to be clean. Now what I'm going to do over in the other sink is that I'm going to get it rinsed out. And there's still some little green pieces over there. I'm not going to worry about those. They're too tiny. I'll put those in the trash. And I'm going to get all that rinsed out. And this is my little stopper that I love. You know, it keeps everything from going down into the drain. Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to slush. I'll move the greens over there. The water will drain, but the greens will not go down the drain. It will just allow the water to go. I'm taking those out. I don't know if you can tell. Can you see the greenness? And this water I'm going to empty out. And anything that's left in there is going to go. So I'm going to let that empty. Then I'm going to put the greens back over here. Put them in some water, another tub of water, and rinse them well. But I'm looking at this water, and other than just a little bit of the green of the greens, the greens are very clean. Because when they're really dirty, you can see all of the grit and grime. And I'm telling you, there is none. I'm amazed at how many greens there were and how clean they are. Okay. So my water's pretty hot. And I'm going to start another batch of water. I'm going to put them back in. Get them good and rinsed. And I'll back over there. Because I've had a chance to drain the first amount of water. So I'm going to fill this up with lots and lots of water. And I'm going to let them soak for maybe about 5 or 6 minutes just to give them a chance to get whatever off. And, okay, we're good to go. We're almost ready. Now you can see that just tossing them around just allows, I like tearing mine up, to be honest with you, rather than necessarily having to cut. So you have nice pieces. You can see what your pieces are. because you know that once you stick them into that hot water, they're going to, it's going to shrink. It's going to looks like we have a lot of greens. But in reality, once it hits that water, this is just going to shrink down to nothing. And you're going to go, wow, all those greens and that's all you have? This is probably one really nice sized pot of greens. I can probably get 2 meals, 2 nice sized meals from this. I'm working with this. You can see I'm kind of breaking up as we go. Larger leaves. Like I said, if I had more time, I'd go through the cutting. I don't have time for that today. And you may not have time for that. And I don't want the cutting to be your issue for whether or not you prepare fresh greens. Don't get so hung up on the process. It's about the quality of the food that you have. We are farm fresh. These are farm fresh greens. And we want them to taste delicious. But, the people who are eating them, they could care less whether or not they are cut with a knife, cut with scissors, or whether you took the time to just break them. So let's not get caught up on that. We want, when you see those ladies at church where they're having those huge, huge amounts of pots of greens, sometimes they even cook those greens, and while they're in the pot, they'll take their scissors and cut so that they can make sure that the greens aren't too large. And plus, it helps the greens go a little further. If you break them up rather than leaving them as large leaves, you're able to serve more people. All right, so I'm going to do what I did before. Give it a good toss. And just keep flipping it over. And you'll see that this water is not green. So you've gotten the dirt off of those greens. And you just have to work with them. Just keep working and tossing. And as you're finding, like I said, you're going to find some stems. You'll toss them over there. And some that you might have missed or just didn't catch. So that's what we're doing at this point. Now, if this was summer, I would have saved this water and poured it over my plants outside because they like the water with some of the nutrients of the greens. It just gives them that little extra spiff. And I'll probably take some of this and put it on some of my house plants. Now, because these are pretty clean, I'm going to just kind of pull them back a little bit. I'm going to pick that up, and I'm going to let this water drain. And while it's draining, I'm just kind of holding on to it because that way it keeps going. Then I can add a little more water in. And this is will be the last rinse. Okay, so I'm going to let that run. Now I'm going to go get some freezer Ziploc bags, because that's what I'm going to put them into. And then we'll be ready to finish up the final process and get them ready for the freezer. So like I said, I'm still finding a few little stems that we need to take care of, and that's good. But it's not those big, hard stems that we had. These are the little softer stems, and as they cook, they're going to cook up and be pretty soft. So I'll bring you back in just a moment. All right, now these greens are in some cool water, and I am giving them a good toss, making sure they're nice and rinsed. It's kind of like washing clothes almost. And you know, you can't be too rough with collards, because collards are pretty tough. Now what I'm going to first do, I'm going to take this Ziploc bag, open it up, and this time I'm not even going to put the date on it, because I know I'm going to use them within the next month. So I'm stuffing it with greens. Oops. Putting them down in there. Get as many in there as you can. Okay, now this one's pretty full. You can see, pretty full. So what I'm going to do, I don't know if you can see. Let me raise you up just a little bit. Okay, I'm going to lay them down and kind of squeeze out most of the air. And just kind of keep shoveling more greens. If I get more room, I put more greens in. Put more greens in. And I think that's pretty full. So I'm going to zip. And I'm going to leave a little air space, because what I want to do when I get it over to the side is that I'm going to mash on it. I'm trying to put it where you can see it. I'm going to give it a good mash, and you can probably hear the air coming out. And then I'll finish zipping. So see, that one's ready to go. So I will continue to do that. But while I'm here, and while you're here with me, I want you to see what I do. I take some of that green water, and for instance, this is one of my plants that I keep watered. It's actually a Christmas cactus, and I'm going to take some of that green juice and just kind of pour into it. I'm going to sit that there a little bit and give it a chance to drain while I'm playing around with these greens. I'm going to get more bags because I'm multitasking this Saturday morning. So when we talk about working hard, we love God and family, and we know without a doubt that everything else is just gravy. You know, there's a lot of things going on in the world, but we have to focus on God and those who are around us, we are responsible for. And we are certainly responsible for our family members to some extent, especially our children. Pray over them. Keep them always in your prayers. Your husbands, pray over them. Boyfriends, future boyfriends, all of those, pray over them. And let God lead them. So here we go. I'm kind of giving it a squeeze as I pick them up. I'll show you bag 2. A good squeeze. And put those in. Now, this one is pretty full again. I'm going to zip it up. Leave a little air space there. I'm going to lay it down. And get most of the air out. And once I've gotten most of that air out, I'll finish the zip. And there's bag 2. So as you can see, I think we're going to probably get about 4 gallon bags of greens. Now, our plant is ready to go back into place. He's got a little bit of drip, but not a lot. Okay, so I'm going to put that right there, and we're back to the process. So let me lift you up for just a second. You want to provide for your family the freshest vegetables that you possibly can. In fact, you want to provide for them the freshest food that you can. And so when you have an opportunity to get farm fresh food, do that. Not only did I get greens, but I wish you would see, I have an entire trash bag, kitchen trash bag full of sweet potatoes. And these sweet potatoes are like this big. They are beautiful. And so I'm going to be using those sweet potatoes not just for baked sweet potatoes, but I'm going to be cooking up some sweet potato pies. So come back, keep an eye on that channel. Thank you to those of you who are new subscribers. I hope that you will stay and that you will enjoy each and every video. I hope that you will enjoy your week, enjoy your day, have a blessed time. Those of you who are still working, you know, pray over your job, because there's craziness out there in the world, and we just don't know from one day to the next whether we even gonna have a job. So let's keep that in prayer as well. So have a wonderful time, and blessings to you and yours. Please be sure to subscribe, hit that like button, leave me a comment, and let me know what you're doing and what you're planning for the holidays, what you're planning for your Thanksgiving and your Christmas dinner to put on those tables. So I'll see you soon. Leona Dooley from Ebony, Ivy, and Thyme in the kitchen.